You know, I actually planned on doing this band after my Blind Guardian video, but halfway through the making of that video, I decided I wanted to do bands that I also know pretty well, which is why I did King Crimson instead. So, for this series, I'm going to go back and forth on those bands. I'm going to do bands that I don't really know, and I'm going to do bands that I do really know. With that said, let's talk about Iced Earth. This is a band I hear about every now and then, especially in the power metal scene. From what I gather, this band is actually very important in the creation of American power metal. Like with Blind Guardian, I already knew some of their songs, but unlike Blind Guardian, I actually also heard 2 of their records. And also, unlike Blind Guardian, this was years ago. I only listened to them once because I honestly wasn't too impressed by what I heard, and to be honest, I just kind of forgot about them. That is until... Okay, I'm just gonna get this out of the way. I want to try my best to not let Schaefer's appearance at the Capitol riots affect my opinions on these records. These records were all made years before he appeared at the riots, and it wouldn't be fair to judge a catalog because of something like that. But like I said, it's been a couple years since I heard those 2 albums, and I only heard each of them once. And I only heard each of them once because, like I mentioned before, I honestly didn't really get into them. I didn't really see what was really that special about them. But you know what? That was like 3-4 years ago at this point. A lot can change in those years. Opinions change, tastes change. So, I'm going to try with this band again. I mean, after all, what better way to get into a band than to force yourself to sit down and go through every single one of their albums? Let's get into it. That was okay. That was fine. There were things that I did like about it. For starters, I thought the songwriting for the most part was there. Like, the guitar riffs are actually pretty catchy. I enjoyed that. It's a really big Maiden influence on this album, which, while I noticed it, it wasn't too distracting, so that's a plus sign. Some of the tracks on this album are also pretty good. Colors, Life and Death, Funeral, When the Night Falls. I like those tracks pretty well. This album also has quite a few issues, though. For starters, while the production wasn't bad, I feel like it could have been a lot better as well. There were certain moments on this album where I felt like if the production was a bit more punchy, it would have been a lot more effective. Also, even though I thought the songwriting was good for the most part, I feel like the drums could have just been a little better written, but that's also just coming from a drummer myself. This singer needs to go. Oh my god. Granted, he does better on a lot of the slower songs, but the songs where he had to hit those really high notes, I laughed every single time. It was bad. From what I gather, this is also the only album with him on it, so it seems like the band also realized that. It sucks because if they had a different singer, I feel like these songs would have worked a hell of a lot better. But as it is, yeah, this guy just was not very good. Yeah, overall, not bad. Just not great either. But you know what? That's okay. Not every debut album is going to be as groundbreaking as in The Court of the Crimson King. And not every album is going to be something like Battalions of Fear, which, while Blind Guardian would make better albums after that, this one still held up fine on its own. Will there be improvement on the next one? You know what? Credit where it's due. This album was an improvement. There were quite a few songs in here I quite liked. Angel's Holocaust, the title track, Tales in Stygian. Yeah, I thought those were pretty cool. The thing is, though, a lot of what I said for that first album could also honestly be applied here. Again, the songwriting is, for the most part, there. I again feel like the drums could still be a little better written. I don't know what it is, I just don't like the drums on this record. Production is pretty good. Just not fully there yet, I feel like, for this band. The vocalist. Okay, first off, this guy is leagues better than the last one, which, thank God for that. That being said, I still don't think this is the right guy for the job. It's better, but yeah, there's just moments on this album where I just didn't like his performance. Yeah, not bad. Still a long way to go before I think it's truly great. Will album number 3 be the one that finally sells me on this band? Yes, 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 this, more of this. Oh my god, thank you, finally, oh my god. This was good. This was good. This was really, oh my god. I feel like the band finally found the sound that they want with this album, particularly with production. This is what I wanted off those previous two albums. The riffs on this thing, so good. Like, there's a lot of good hooks on here. Again, drums, I feel like could be a little bit more creative, but you know, I'll take what I can at this point. The vocalist, yes, finally, they got someone who can actually sing worth a damn. Please, please let him be on every record after this, please. The songs on it, these are probably the best songs this band has written so far. The title track, Last December, Diary, Burning Oasis, Dante's Inferno. Like, oh, Dante's Inferno was good. Yeah, we finally have it, guys. We have the first genuinely good Iced Earth album. Sure, it's only 3 albums in, and it still has some issues, but you know what? At this point, I'm just, oh god, this is good. This was good. Can we keep the momentum going? Okay, so this was one of the 2 albums I'd heard prior to this video. Like I mentioned earlier, when I first heard this album, I thought it was just okay. I didn't really get the hype behind this band. I thought it was just fine for what it was, and I just kind of went on to other things. But now that a couple years have passed, and I've now officially gone through the first 3 albums, I can now definitively say that I think this album is still just okay. The weird thing is, I feel like I should be all over this album. Because everything I liked about Burnt Offerings, from the production to the songwriting to the vocals, but they kept the same vocals for this album, it's all here. And there are some really good tracks on here. I Died For You, Violate, Depths of Hell, Vengeance is Mine, Question of Heaven. Those are good tracks. But for some reason, this album just didn't really stick to me that well. And I have no idea why. At the end of the day, I would still call this record good. Heck, in all honesty, this might be on par with Burnt Offerings. Between those 2 records, I think I'm gonna go to Burnt Offerings just a little bit more. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know this one. Hoping I'll get into the next one a little bit more. I'm split on this one, guys. Because on one hand, there's a lot of stuff that I do like about this record. The performances were all really good. The production was immaculate. Like, this is probably the best sounding record this band has put out so far. There's quite a few songs on here that I really enjoyed. Burning Times, Disciples of the Lie, Watching Over Me, Consequences, The Coming Curse. Like, yeah, those were really cool. On the other hand, man, there's such a drop-off in quality after the first half. The thing is, like, the songs afterwards aren't necessarily bad, they're just kind of there. They're not memorable in the slightest. On top of that, this is also the longest album the band has put out so far. Yeah, it's only over an hour, but after a while you kind of start to feel that length. It's funny, because like, when I looked this album up online, people are also kind of split on it. Some say it's the best thing they've made, and some people say it's just okay. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's okay. There's a lot of stuff on here that works. There's some on here that just kind of doesn't. If you dug some of the earlier stuff, you'll like this fine. But overall, it's okay. That was pretty good. That was cool. I think I like this more than Something Wicked This Way Comes. Like, I feel like this was more consistent in that album. I think the drums are actually doing some pretty interesting stuff here. Like, they're definitely doing more than on the previous records, which, you know, I appreciate. And I gotta say, I like the idea behind this album. Each song on here is based off of an icon of horror. Like, so we have songs like Wolf, which is about the Wolfman, Damien, about the Omen films, Imhotep, which is about, now, the Mummy, Jekyll and Hyde, and yeah, the entire album is kind of like based off songs like that. So, you know, pretty simple concept, but it's a pretty cool one, I guess. That being said, as much as I did enjoy this album, again, there's not really much on here that I'd go back to. It's good when you're listening to it in the moment, but outside of a few tracks, like, there's not much I remember about this album. And I can't help but start to get a little concerned about that. We are now like 6 albums into their catalog, and there's only one album that I genuinely want to go back to and listen to again. Maybe 2 if I'm feeling really generous. Again, not a bad record, but not a very memorable one either. Let's check out the next album. So we have now reached the second of the 2 albums I'd listened to back in the day. Has the passage of time changed my opinion on it? Not really, no. I know I'm starting to sound like a broken record here, guys, and I really am sorry for that. But stop me if you've heard me say this before. Playing overall was pretty good. The production was really solid. There are a few tracks I really did enjoy. And like with the previous couple of records, if I liked it when I was listening to it, but as soon as it stopped, I forgot most of it. Actually, hold on. Going back to the performances bit, the one thing I can genuinely give this album as a positive, the vocals on here were incredible. They got a different singer for this record. I'm not entirely sure what was going on behind the scenes, but the guy they picked to do the vocals on this album absolutely killed it. He was easily the best part of this record. The things I didn't like about this album, first off, and this is a minor nitpick thing, so don't take this with a grain of salt. Why wasn't Devil to Pay the closer on this album? Like, this song feels like the grand finale. This song felt like, no, everything was building up to this moment. Like, this was it. So imagine my surprise when I found out there were 2 more songs after it that just honestly, while not bad, just didn't have that grand finale feel to it. Another issue I had with it, and this is a genuine complaint of mine, this album is way too fucking long. I know I complained about Something Wicked This Way Comes and Horror Show being too long, but this thing is easily longer than that. 1 hour and 15 minutes, and it did not need to be that long. I know some people have complained about the lyrics on this album and have gone as far as call Schaefer an American nationalist, which, you know, I am not even going to touch that subject, no thank you. With Horror Show, I was starting to get concerned over the lack of progress and evolution in their sound. With this record, I'm starting to get really frustrated with it. This band should be doing better. They should. They just should be doing better than this. If you guys want a power metal album that's essentially just America Fuck Yeah for about 1 hour and 15 minutes, you'll get it with this record. I still got like maybe 5 records to go through with this band, so here's hoping the next one's good. This album fucking sucks. Next. Wait, no, I can't do that, can I? What do you want me to say? This was not very good. Of course I would jinx myself before this. Every issue I had with the previous couple albums, mainly being just the lack of progression in their sound and songwriting, it's present here too. But there's a lot of other things I have issue with on this album. The production here is fine, it's standard, it doesn't really add much to the music. The performances themselves, like, these was like a stand-up for the previous records. Here it's just like, okay, it doesn't feel like they care anymore. The story, it exists. Like with the last couple records, this album goes on for far too long. Seriously, this album is shorter than Glorious Burden, but it feels like an eternity. How is that possible? But my biggest issue with this record is that it is so fucking boring. Guys, I don't get bored listening to albums. Or at least, I typically don't. Whenever I listen to an album, it usually keeps my attention from beginning to end. I must have zoned out like maybe 5 times during this record. Oh my god. Are there any positives I can say about it? 10,000 Strong is a good track. I'll admit that's a pretty cool song. I dug it. And I'll fully admit, the artwork to the album is actually kind of cool. But yeah, guys, this was bad. Is it the worst album I've ever heard? No, not by a long shot. But this is easily the worst record they've made so far. The fact that there's a part 2 to this, like, there's another one of these, maybe part 2 will be better. Knock on wood. Well, it is better. I mean, for starters, it's a lot shorter than part 1. Granted, it's only 10 minutes shorter, but still, that's a positive. Again, that artwork is pretty cool. I still would not call this a good record, though. Yeah, guys, pretty much everything I said about framing Armageddon could also be applied here. This is just really uninteresting and boring. I was really surprised to hear the guy from Burns Offering sing the vocals on this one, but it's clear that they didn't write this with his vocals in mind. They wrote it with the previous guy. There's like 2 tracks I enjoy, Divide Devour and Come What May. But those 2 songs are at the end of the record, and it's not worth listening to the entire record just for those 2 tracks. So yeah, not good. This was not very good. It's better, but it's still not that good. Where was this album earlier? Okay, I don't know if it's because I'm listening to this after Framing Armageddon and Crucible of Man, and I just had such low expectations for the next one. But this is easily the best thing they've made since Horror Show. Like, no bullshit, this was good. This was actually really damn good. First point of praise, this album does not overstay its welcome. This thing is just a nice 45 minutes. Thank you for that, guys. Thank you. The songs on here, there's actually a lot more memorable songs on here. The title track, Anthem, Dark City, Anguish of Youth, Boiling Point, those are good. I like those. Those are good. It's weird that they brought back Matt Barlow for just 1 album. Like, I finally learned the guy's name. Only for them to go to a different vocalist, that was a little weird. Speaking of the new vocalist, he's good. I enjoyed him. I will say I like his mid-range vocals more than his higher range vocals. Like, when he goes to his higher register, it sounds like he's trying just a little too hard. But overall, it was good. So yeah, this was a good one. I liked this one quite a lot, actually. However, at this point, I'm starting to think it's too late for this band. 10 albums in, and really only 2 I can get behind. That's not a good track record. And the sad thing is, as much as I did like this album, this felt like a fluke. I am hoping the remaining 2 records I'm going to talk about are up to this level of quality, but I'm also not really holding my breath to it. Regardless, this was good. I can actually recommend this one. This was a good record. Check it out. Will the next album prove that this was just a fluke? Was Dystopia a fluke? Yes and no. I don't think it's as good as Dystopia, but it's not really that bad either. There are some tracks on here that I like. No, I liked the title track, Democide, Cthulhu, Peacemaker. Those are pretty cool. My issue with this record is the same issue I had with Something Wicked, Horror Show, and Glorious Burden. It's fine when you're listening to it in the moment, but once you finish it, it's not going to stick with you too much. I think it really says a lot when the one track I remember the most from this album is that 30-second outro track with them just fucking around in the studio. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was funny, but yeah, no, when a little goof track is the one thing that you're going to remember from an album of like 12 songs. Again, don't get me wrong, this isn't a bad album, it's perfectly fine. But it's definitely a step down from Dystopia, in my opinion at least. Let's check out the last one. What happened here? Okay, to be fair, it's not as bad as Framing Armageddon or Crucible of Man, but this is still pretty bad. The difference is, though, with those 2 records, they were bad in the sense that they were just really fucking boring. This one was bad in the sense that the music itself just wasn't very good. The drums, this is probably the most basic we've gotten the drums, like, since, like, Night of the Stormrider, like, Jesus Christ. The vocalist, remember my issue with Dystopia being that he sometimes was trying a little bit too hard? Yeah, that's just this record. He's trying way too hard on this one. And the songs themselves are just not very good. I think the biggest disappointment on this one has to be the closer, Clear the Way. This song had potential to be really cool. A song talking about the Irish Brigade during the American Civil War, during Gettysburg. Like, that's really cool. That's really interesting. And yet they do nothing with it. So yeah, not very good. Again, it's not the worst thing they've done, but yeah. A band like almost 35 years into their career should be doing much better than this. And this is where it ends with the band. What? That's a shame. So, I kind of lied about that being the last Iced Earth album. Okay, so halfway through listening to their records, I discovered they, and by they I mean Schaefer, actually put out an album earlier this year. A narrative soundscape, released in January of 2022. Now, I had full intentions of listening to this album, giving my thoughts on it, but I listened to the first track on the record, and yeah, no, fuck that noise. I'm done. Do you know what's worse than a band that actively sucks? A band that had so much potential and can never really live up to it. This band had everything it needed to be good. The playing was usually really good, the production was pretty solid, they had some good songs and some good records here and there. I've gone back through the records and not much has changed, except for one. I guess third time was the charm because I actually really like Dark Saga now. So yeah, 3 records out of 12? Yeah, no. No. I said it earlier in this video, and I'll say it again. This band should have been so much better. If you want to get into Iced Earth, well, first off, I can name like 5 different power metal bands you should listen to instead. Blind Guardian, Halloween, Gamma Ray, Rhapsody, Stradivarius. There. But if you really want to get in this band, Burnt Offerings, Dark Saga, and Dystopia. Those are the ones that I liked. So yeah, that was Iced Earth. Damn, now I'm just sad. I need to listen to something good. No, something that no matter how many times I listen to it, it always lifts my spirits and always puts a smile on my face. I think I got just banned for that. See you next time. That actually wasn't that bad an outro. Wait, is the camera still rolling?